Well, what's up, guys, and welcome back to Project Time Garage. My Solara. The Solara is fixed. Yep, you heard me right. The Solara is fixed. Bought this car almost a year ago. Let's take a link to that initial purchase right up here somewhere. And this thing was supposed to be a quick flip. 500 bucks. Didn't run when it got here. First video that I made about this car almost a year ago was the fact that it had three big problems. And the three big problems were bad starter, dead miss, and then it would just start and quit intermittently. So the first video I put out dealt with those first two problems. We put a starter in it, and we just happened to have an entire trunk load of extra parts, and we put a number 3 coil pack on it, and that fixed our miss. Since that point, I've been troubleshooting this intermittent start and miss thing, and it was the most maddening problem I have ever dealt with before. I'm pretty well versed in troubleshooting stuff, pretty well versed in how to use a multimeter, how to ring out wires, how to chase down circuits, understand this stuff pretty well. This thing was killing me because the symptom that it exhibited only happened when the engine was running. Impossible to chase down. So when our video left off last time, this video here, we troubleshot this thing and we came down to, it's got to be the ECU, because we were getting a faulty ground coming right out of the ECU that controls the coil side of the fuel pump relay. So I felt comfortable, jumped on eBay, bought myself a ECU for like 28 bucks, dirt cheap. You don't have to program these cars for ECUs. You can just plug them in. Trust me, it works. So we got our ECU, got her plugged in, fired up the car. Same problem.
Same problem.
Needless to say, I was a little bit frustrated. I was ready to burn the thing to the ground on the spot. But luckily, we persevered. So two things happened that kind of helped me along the troubleshooting paths here. One is the problem with the intermittent fuel pump thing became constant, so it was a lot easier to troubleshoot. It was always that way. The second thing that happened was the air conditioning compressor circuit, the magnetic clutch circuit, developed exactly the same problem. So now we have two relays in that same box that both click like crazy when they're trying to run, right? So the problem was getting worse. It almost had to be a wire problem. So here's what I did. I grabbed my Autel scanner, went into active tests. With the engine off and ignition on, I commanded the fuel pump relay on, and it came on. No click in relay, it was uninterrupted. So then I commanded the air conditioner compressor circuit on. It came on, uninterrupted. So now we know a little more about what's going on. The cadence of the engine and the shaking of the engine had something to do with it. So I was almost sure at that point we were dealing with a connector or a wire somewhere that was unhappy, right? I've checked everything 10 ways from Sunday. We have an ECU put in the car, and this problem not only still exists, but is getting worse. So let me show you what it ended up being. My buddy Brandon was over here. Big kudos to him. He's the one that really found this problem. So he was over here, we were hanging out. He was like, hey, let me check out that car. So the car is sitting there idling. He reaches up on top of the engine around the coil packs, moves some wiring, and just for a second, it stopped. The clicking stopped. And he was poking around up here. All of these wires here go down into this big bundle. So I just grabbed this bundle and yanked on it. And when I did, the car quit. So we're like, okay, at least we know where the problem is now. It's down there. There is an entire mess of wiring right down here. Of course, you can't see any of it because it's all just buried on top of the engine. But it's this main harness down here. Okay, and as a matter of fact, there's a wire right there that does appear to be the problem. So I guess you can see that wire right there. Once I pulled that wire out and got it away from everything else, my problem went away. So this wire has a nick in it, and that is pretty much what was wrong with this car the whole time. So now when we start the car, this is what we get. I mean, yeah, it's got a squeaky tensioner, but it starts every single time. How about that? Now that it runs, let's start the cleanup process on this thing. I'm going to start with the floor mats because they're awful. In fact, they're bad enough that I'm just going to pressure wash them. Look what we're working with. That's supposed to say Solara in beige or something there. So let's get some pressure washing going. So while those are out in the sun drying, let's get back on the car and see if we can make it look a little bit more presentable. I had some footage of repainting the bumpers, but I have no idea where the footage went. But I do have some footage of polishing out the headlights, sanding them down and polishing them out. So I'll go ahead and stick that in here now and show you what we ended up with when we're all said and done. So cue the headlight footage. You know, there's the headlight restore things that you see on the shelf. And those are good. They work fine. I just happen to have some 800 grit sandpaper and some water, and I'm just going to hit them with 800 grit and then probably step up to 1,000, then 1,500, do a quick polish on them, and we'll call it good enough. It'll improve them dramatically. Normally you'd want to tape up your bumper so as not to destroy it, but I guess you see the bumper. I'm just going to kind of do a cross hatch pattern best I can. Just try to work it all off to a uniform haze. Work it just a little bit more. It's probably plenty, but it's probably good enough. We'll step back to a 1,000 grit. So there we go. Nice uniform haze. Next we'll drop down to a 1,000 grit sandpaper. Do the same thing. Doesn't take a lot of work. Happens a lot faster than you'd expect it to. So this will be 1,000 grit. These headlights really weren't that bad, so I can probably get away with 800, then 1,000, then 1,500. And then a polish. We'll polish them with a high-speed machine. So the idea here is just to use the 1,000 grit sandpaper to get all the scratches out that the 800 left behind. All right, there's our haze left over from our 1,000. We'll step up to 1,500. I'm going to dry it off. I'm going to get a hold of some compound. We're going to compound the problem. Just going to come back with some Meguiar's fine cut cleaner and a swirl killer. quick wipe down, see what it looks like here. Gonna give it one more application. Probably should have started off with a medium cut compound coming off of 1500 like that, I don't know. But this is all right too. All right, next thing we're gonna move to is a 3M wool pad and some ProjectIt. And that should get them as close as we're gonna worry about getting them to being perfect. I mean, the car's not perfect. Nowhere near perfect, but a ton better. We compare that side with this side. You see the difference for sure. Let's get to work on this side. I'll bring it back when I'm done. Feast your eyes on this little bit of heaven right here. So, since it runs, I think the least we could do is go take the thing for a drive. So let's go do that. Look, it's a miracle. It didn't quit. Oh, I'm glad to have this thing fixed. Let's get it out on the interstate. You know, this car, it's just a little race car is what it is. So long as your idea of a race car is something that's pretty slow, then I guess it's that. I had to get over in this lane just to be able to talk because it's so noisy. They're redoing the roads here, so it sounds terrible. But that's about 80 miles an hour. And I mean, wow, the thing's driving great. It rides just fantastically. The air is like bone chilling cold. I don't know what Toyota did to get air conditioning that good, but kudos to them. You know, we picked this car up about a year ago. I think it was maybe the end of July or the beginning of August, somewhere in that neighborhood when we bought this thing. And we gave $500 for it. We put a starter in it, and we put a coil pack on it, which we had in the trunk. The car's got 136,000 miles on it, but really, we don't have anything else invested in the car. Now, I will say this, if this car was at a couple of different shops chasing down this problem, but it really doesn't pay to take a problem like this to a shop to get it worked on, because the amount of time they're going to spend chasing down a problem like this that's that elusive, you know, it would get out of hand pretty quick. So you end up with a thousands of dollar repair bill on a car that's worth just about that. So the only way we came out ahead on this, I think, is the fact that we kind of worked at it when we had time, and we had the tools and the knowledge to, you know, identify things and work our way through to the solution. But you know, one of the shops basically came to the same conclusion that I came to, which is, well, let's say it sounds computer related, and it really did sound computer related. I totally agree. In fact, I thought it sounded computer related so much that I bought an ECU for it. So yeah, it's just one of those things where you know, right place, right time, and the ability to fix a problem paid off. So what do we have invested in the car? The $500 buying it, about $120 starter, so let's call it $650, you know, with tax and all that. I bought a hubcap for it. The ECU was like 28 bucks. I polished the headlights, so I used a little bit of my materials to do that. I shot a little bit of paint on the bumper out of that Duplicolor paint match cans. You know, let's overshoot and say, let's say we've got a total of $1,000 in the car, including buying it. Now, of course, I went and registered the car and got it titled in my name and got tags, got insurance, it's added to my policy. So we do have a little bit of an investment, but I would say $1,000 is probably pretty close to the final number. Everything that we've got invested in. I think at the tag place it was like $176 or something like that. It was $170 something dollars. So yeah, we don't have a whole lot in it. So what are we going to ask for it? I don't know. There are a lot of comparable vehicles out there. The thing that helps this one out so much is that 136,000 miles. Well, I'm going to list it as 137,000, and that's just because it's only got about 50 miles before it turns over that. So I'll list it as 137. It'll take a couple of weeks before the title comes in the mail, because I just got it registered day before yesterday. Yeah, day before yesterday. So I'm going to drive it every day for that week or two until the title comes in, make sure there are no other problems. And I don't believe there are. The car was doing really well before this problem happened. It was a daily driver. So I don't expect to have any issues out of it. You know, it's been a fun project. Could I have turned it around quicker? Yeah, probably so. But, you know, I had other projects that came up, and, you know, sometimes the best way to handle a frustrating project is to just back burner it for a little while and focus on something else, and then come back to it. Or at least that has always worked for me. Plus, it keeps a lot of projects to work on. You don't have a chance to have anything get stale. So that's going to wrap up the Solara quick flip project. Quick, not on your life. But is it a flip? Yeah, it's going to be a flip. Guys, as usual, I really appreciate you watching my channel. I love to hear comments from you guys. Let me know what you think about it. Like, share, subscribe. Tell all your friends about us. And I'll see you next time.